Welcome everyone to Spirituality for the Transformation of Patriarchal Masculinities, which is another session in the series of the Inner Work for Social Change Solidarity Circle. We're excited to have you today for this session. Thank you so much for joining. We're just going to do a few minutes to support with tech setup, as the session will be primarily in Spanish today. But before we do that, it's a really big pleasure to introduce our facilitator for the session today, Rafael González Franco de la Peza, and he's co-founder and director of Cuidarte, which translates into care for yourself. And we're going to have a phenomenal participatory session today. So looking forward to your contributions and joining in with your own insights on using spirituality to transform masculinities. And through some practical exercises, we'll explore how spirituality can support in conceiving of alternative ways of being that are not based on gendered power dynamics. So excited to share this session with all of you. And just to reiterate before we begin, we're excited to be sharing this as part of the Inner Work for Social Change work that we're advancing as an alliance that has become part of one of the 7 commitments of the Ubuntu Declaration and Call to Action, where we acknowledge that all our commitments made here within the Ubuntu Declaration may not be possible unless we do the inner work required to propel social change. We believe that personal transformation is deeply interwoven to social change, and we call for reflecting on power and privilege as how we're positioned within the systems of oppression. And we commit to our ongoing reflective practice that increases transformative awareness of self and others, as well as of the systems from which complex social problems arise. And with that, Rafael, it's such a pleasure to welcome you. Bienvenido. Let me stop screen. Te paso la palabra, over to you. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, muchísimas gracias. Estoy muy emocionado.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today in this space. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to share my reflections with you. So I have to begin by acknowledging something that is truly important, especially in these spaces. I wanted to say that I assume and I acknowledge the privileged position from which I'm speaking in many senses. And also I acknowledge that what I want to share with you happens in my world, in my culture, with my language, and I don't expect my benchmarks to be your universal benchmarks. I know that there's cultural diversity in the world. I know that there are many different ways of viewing the world and representing the world and representing and defending life. And this diversity, of course, is not a barrier for relationships and the construction of networks such as this important network as MenEngage. I wanted to say that I do not expect that what I say has universal validity. It's the result of my decisions, my actions, my research, my dialogue and conversations with many people throughout the world, but this is just my point of view. It's subjective, and this is where I'm speaking from to you. I'm not speaking from my privileged position. I'm not speaking from my economic position or from my race or gender. I don't want to convince anybody of anything. I just want to take advantage of this space to share what is in my heart, what my reflections, my very own reflections, and what I feel, which I think is essential to share what someone thinks and reflects. Something that's happened to me when I speak of this is that people ask me, why are you talking about spirituality? Spirituality is usually not something, at least not in the West, it's something that it's spoken about outside of a church or a temple or a sacred space. It's not spoken of in auditoriums unless you are a pastor or a rabbi, and I'm no pastor, no rabbi, no priest. So what am I doing speaking about spirituality? I'm just speaking to you as a common human being who has discovered in spirituality a fundamental dimension and a determining factor in order to improve and to have a better future, a future where into which we all fit into. It's not easy to speak about spirituality, especially for believers, because when we speak to believers about spirituality outside of the scope of their religion, they tend to be untrustworthy. It's not easy to speak about spirituality to non-believers because they relate this to magic or something outside of logic or fundamentalism or radicalism. So spirituality is something very personal and unique, and we can apply it to some aspects of our life, and it has to do with public spaces, with community work. So speaking about spirituality is always a complex issue in these open spaces, but I'm doing it and I come with you today with uh, humility. I'm very humble when I speak of spirituality. I'm very open minded. So I want to speak about my personal process. A long time ago, I had to find the meaning of spirituality, a meaning that could be shared by believers and non believers. And in that research, in my quest, in the search of spirituality, I wanted to be inclusive. I wanted to invite to this conversation believers and non believers. This was my own path. And I did some research based on two questions. The first question is, what do all religions and life philosophies have in common? And I'm not talking about sacred or about the existence of a soul that does not die with the human body. Not that. I mean, what do they all have in common when they talk about life, the world, and the future? That was my first question that I asked myself. The second question is, what do people have in common? The people that practice religion have in common. And it is that they convey peace, tranquility, compassion, solidarity. They work for the common good. And that was my second question. And this led me to a conclusion, the conclusion that what the people, the religion and philosophies have in common, besides their rules and their mandates, what they have in common, all these religions, is spirituality. And so we can say that these people, what they have in common, regardless of their religion, is that they have spiritual intelligence. I speak of spiritual intelligence as something that we, all humans, have along with our rationale and with our emotional intelligence. All of these three encompass one spirituality, one intention. They all have common ground. And so spirituality is basically openness in connection. It's spirituality in what connects us to the deepest part of humanity. It connects us with ourselves, it connects us with others, it connects us with all living things. Spirituality leads us to think of how we want to live our life. Spirituality as openness and connection has two fundamental attitudes: gratitude and consciousness. We are constantly led to surprise and joy for discovering new things every single day. Like children, children are always impressed by everything that happens around them. And also, spirituality talks about our weaknesses, how we as individuals are completely insignificant, unnecessary in proportion to the world and to the universe. And in this state of awareness, then we are always surprised. And we are always placed before something that cannot be named, but that we know is there. Something that has no words, no description possible. The cosmos. We cannot explain this with words. We can only let the cosmos overwhelm us. How it affects us individually, admiring the cosmos and life itself in all of its diversity in this university. And then and only then can we be thankful for life, for the life that we have. We are witnesses to everything that exists around us and how we can share and feel this and share it with everyone around us and all our loved ones. So for me, spirituality is something that allows us to be thankful. It's a way of being. It's something that makes us flow between time, space, people, life avatars, hope. It gives us hope and always being thankful. And this is what I found, that gratitude, thankfulness, and surprise is what philosophies and religions have in common. This method of surprise and gratitude, with this attitude, the openness and the connection that comes from our spirituality is what takes us what removes us from being isolated within our own selves. And it leads us to simplicity and enjoying the simple things in life. It's being aware of our vulnerability and the need that we have to take care of ourselves and take care of other living things and everything that surrounds us. And so spirituality makes us generous, compassionate. We are part of communities operating in a world where we all have a role. We all have a function of care, bonding, in order to build a better world, a world where everyone can be thankful and enjoy their lives. This spirituality leads us to work together in the creation of models and relationships free of violence, oppression, exclusion. And in this sense, spirituality means love. It's a way of living life with love and creating community united by care, which is why I believe, I am convinced that those who work on their spirituality, who reflect on their spirituality, is a simple person who doesn't need many things in life, because what truly fills that void is connection with himself, herself, and everyone around them. So spirituality means openness to the world and finding a balance, peace, and happiness. And isn't that exactly what happiness Isn't that what we are looking for, to be happy?
Esta es a grandes rasgos y de una manera apretada, una forma en que yo les
So
comparto.
this is what I would like to share with you of what I think what spirituality is. So in this first part, I brought to you my proposal of what I've read, what I experienced, and what I share nowadays with everybody. And now I would like to make some groups following Bianca or Jenny's instructions. I don't know who mentioned them, but the idea is that we make up groups, and I invite you to share briefly, to take some minutes to share what is your own idea of spirituality. Let's share our thinking. Let's share what we think about what spirituality is. And also, please, in some way, try to share what you feel about spirituality and how it relates, or how, let's say, the patriarchal system is related to spirituality. Is there a relationship? Is there rejection? What is your experience in seeing the patriarchal system and the spirituality? So let's start the breakout rooms and let's share our thinking about spirituality and the patriarchal system. If the patriarchal system accepts or rejects spirituality. So let's go.
Bueno, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo les fue? Lamentablemente no hay mucho tiempo para compartir en el plenaria, pero quisiera invitar 3 voluntarias.
Okay, so how has it been? Unfortunately, we don't have much time to share everything that you have talked, but I would like to give the floor to 3 of you to share your experience and to highlight what has been the most important of the exchange that you have had. So you can raise your hands and share with us your reflections.
So please don't line up for this. So I briefly like to share what we talked about in our group. Spirituality invites us to connect in order to have a better relationship with the people around us, the environment. Spirituality has to do with love. It doesn't have anything to do with what patriarchy poses in front of us. Spirituality is one thing and being religious is another thing. They are completely different things. Thank you. Thank you so much, Keiko. Very good. And now Pablo Alfredo Ramirez. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Regards from Costa Rica. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I agree with what our colleague previously said about spirituality, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be related with religion. We reflected on the fact that in patriarchy, there is an institutionalization of religion and other institutions. So our reflection is that we need to analyze that institutionalization of religion, and we need to deconstruct because it's biased, and we need to be more hegemonious. Excellent, Alfredo. Yes, I completely agree. Good reflection. And finally, maybe one more person, maybe a woman. Would anyone like to share their reflections?
Okay, my name is Stella.
Stella.
Yes, hi, hola. Our group was English group, and most of the participants were from the African continent, although we had someone from Mongolia, someone from Latin America. I'm not sure if I saw another person. We also linked it to the pillars of Ubuntu. We talked about spirituality being at a higher consciousness and as being completely not equated to religion. And we got an example from Mongolia also saying that religion excludes some categories of people, such as women. Like some women are not allowed to climb mountains in Mongolia. I mean, we all have all these things in our different cultures. The rest, it's equal to what has been said. And then connectedness with Mother Nature. Mother Nature also came up very, very much. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Stella, for your input. It would be truly enriching if we could all share what we reflected on. Unfortunately, we don't have time, but these three reflections were quite significant. And now we can continue with our practical exercise. We're going to take a quick break. We are going to do a short meditation, a short reflection. So I'm going to invite you to sit down in a comfortable position, to be aware of your body posture, to feel your body, if you're sitting down, if you're lying down, if you're in a chair, a sofa, on the floor. What's your body posture? And I want you to be as comfortable as possible. And now I want you to start breathing in slowly, inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth, feeling how the air, the oxygen enters your body and connect with your body and your breathing. Inhale, exhale, and when you inhale and exhale, you start making an effort to connect with the here and now, trying to let go of difficulties, trying to put a pause on everything that is exhausting, overwhelming, and you're going to give yourself a moment, a few minutes to connect with yourself. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe, just breathe. Inhale, exhale, and in each exhale, give yourself the opportunity to let go of your difficulties, of your worries, your troubles, what you have to do after this meeting. Just for a second, for a minute, let all of that go. Let go of all that baggage. Be able to disconnect with the world around you in order to connect with yourself, and feel yourself flowing as if you were a leaf being led or conducted by the air, or a leaf being guided by the current of the river. Let yourself flow. And in this area, connect with the idea that you are one individual among a million living species. You are part of this planet that, as Carl Sagan said, it's just a tiny blue dot in a wide, wide galaxy, in a huge universe. Think of the time that has gone by since the existence of the universe. Think of the first existence of human life on Earth, when Homo sapiens started to exist as a species. Think of that space and time dimension. Reflect on who you are. Think of your life in the world. Think of your breath in this vast universe, and think of how tiny you are. But at the same time, think of how you belong to a species, a privileged species with consciousness. It's true, your life is short, but you are part of the human species. You are one of the millions of humans that live in this world. And even though it may seem insignificant, you are magnificent, because you're part of a species that exists thanks to its ability to reflect, to think, to cooperate. Even though you were a predator, your origin, your essence is to cooperate, to live in community, to help each other. This cooperation comes with mutual care. Our species depends on cooperation and mutual care. Thanks to cooperation, we were able to improve our food habits and develop our brain, our thinking capacity, our rational capacity, and our spirituality. With the growth of our brain, our skull also grew. And so that means that we were raised logically, developing as humans. That's why we are born. We are born, and we need the love of other humans. We need the love and warmth of other human beings, of our mothers and loved ones, someone who supports us in order to care for us so that we can grow. And as Harari says, evolution favored a species that was capable of creating strong emotional bonds. That's why I uphold, I think, that the human species is viable thanks to love. Anthropologically and biologically speaking, we human beings live our lives according and led by love. When someone asked what was the beginning of civilization, and someone said the femur, the bone, when we heal, that means that somebody cared for us. Somebody took care of us when we were down, when we were sick. And so through love provided by the human species, that love leads to care and caring for others. And that is what enables you to be here today and now. You are here because you were cared for. And so you, man, woman, it's not your strength, it's not your power, it's not your control capacity that makes you human. It's your vulnerability, it's your fragile aspect. That is what marks your life. You are here because of the love and emotions and solidarity that you received throughout your life. That is what held you and contained you. So then, having said this, the cruel mandate of not connecting with your emotions, of not showing how vulnerable you are, of sharing your sadness and your grief, rage. They told you that you had to defend yourself, isolate yourself from that. And it's completely the opposite. Let go of those mandates. Patriarchy tells a legend that enables you to repeat dominating patterns. The one that protects and provides without caring dominates, and who dominates will be aggressive. So break those chains, break those negative bonds, break those habits that make you unhappy. Breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale, inhale and exhale. And love is part of you. You are here because of the love and the care that you received from your loved ones. Inhale, exhale, and slowly open your eyes and come back to this moment.
I would like to listen to two people who can briefly share your experiences with this reflection, guided reflection. Can anybody share how you felt? Just one by one. Nobody? Okay. So this is a reflective silence. So if there isn't anybody who would like to share, this means that you have reflected through silence. Really? Isn't it? Oh, Pablo, yes.
Bueno, otra vez por acá.
Okay, me again here.
Agradecer.
I would like to thank.
Hoy es un día
Today is really a day in which I have a lot to do here in Costa Rica. It's not even 8 in the morning, so I have all the day ahead, a lot of work. However, this time to meet you all, to feel my body, feel the reality has been really valuable. So I thank you a lot for this exercise. And maybe in this debate about spirituality and what we can do or reflect about how valuable this thing of spirituality is, as if we were sitting in a circle, talking and looking at each other. Probably the silence would be different. However, being behind a camera or just looking at a screen, it's like easier to remain silent and not to interact, something that we were able to do when we were joined together. So I guess we have to learn how to be together again. The pandemic made us be more distant socially and from a spiritual point of view. Thank you, Pablo, for sharing your view. And now I would like to continue with the second part of my presentation, something I prepared for you today. So I think now it's important to focus on our work on the patriarchal system and its rejection or acceptance of spirituality. I would like now to think about a concept that is key for me when we speak with men on our work to change, to transform our reality and to be in a more caring, less violent world. And it's a term that has to do with human supremacy. And within that, something that has posed as human beings or presented an idea that we have everything there at our disposal to take advantage of it, to exploit something. The concept of human supremacy that has a very important key element. And there is a paradigm that is old, really old, and it's the false idea of presenting the masculinity supremacy that makes it natural, the fact that everything rounds around men, everything. So this idea of masculinity presents as natural the thing that feminism is under masculinity. And by that, they legitimate some domain situations or to people that are not that don't see them as men. So in this thing, in this endocentric, from this endocentric point of view, I think this is the main idea of the patriarchal system. This is in all the masculinity narratives, and which seems to be eternal, impossible to be changed. So in this sense, it's a narrative that affirms that masculinity is the best, the most desirable thing, and better than feminism. And also they present it as that feminism doesn't exist. So this endocentric thought makes some things natural or some differences natural where masculinity is stronger than feminism, for example. This concept has appeared in a lot of narratives, in a lot of conversations. This carries a lot of prejudice over feminism. So from that paradigm of masculinity supremacy, along the history, there has been the thought of men as self-sufficient, heterosexual, and pure reasoning. And also focuses men as protected with a shield, like someone that can do it all and that can exercise whatever they want without paying attention to nature, to other human beings. In that sense, the paradigm and the sense of masculinity supremacy is like control, domination, like men as the only providers, but a provider who doesn't take care of others. They protect their domain. Now, the challenge is to continue providing but taking care of others, providing but caring at the same time. So this, what we think, this is contrary to what spirituality presents. Spirituality puts us in a place of vulnerability, like small beings, and to get rid of the false idea that we don't need others. It's like we don't want power, and we don't look at spirituality as an emotional system. Now, this is contrary to spirituality in its full sense. So now I would like to introduce another concept that goes in hand with spirituality, that is the ethic of care. We can see that ethics allows us to have an ethical thinking, of course, apart from our moral thinking and our oral feelings. Aristoteles thinks that thought and told us that we protect, we are nurtured, and we have to provide, of course, to others, protect others, nurture to others as a reciprocity activity. This is how in our spiritual intelligence, this is core to spiritual intelligence. We have to think about living a life assisted by bonds, by relationships that we are creating that depend on reciprocity. So we cannot avoid seeing us being mingled with others and taking care of others and to provide for others, for the others, for men, for women, in all circumstances. Taking care is the opposite of violence. And ethical of care of all species is key. And it has a political dimension also, because we have to put the public interest before the personal interest. And this is not only possible for the public system. So we, through spirituality takes us to join others, to participate voluntarily in transforming the world in a through solidarity, through caring, through love, celebrating. We have to sing more, we have to dance more, and learn, of course, after the pandemic, to recover bonds with others and to celebrate life together with men and women. Of course, I can take more time on how this care ethical leads us to be more responsible when consuming, we're more responsible with the life of others, and to eradicate hatred for those who are different from us. We see that we have a lot to do to recover our spirituality of all men and women and of all narratives, institutions that considered spirituality in an opposite way as it really is. As I said at the beginning, I said spirituality is openness, is connection, is openness to connect with ourselves, with our deeper ins, to be conscious of who we are, and from that to reconcile with our fragile being and to be caring with us and then with others. Spirituality joins us with our inner being, and from that connects us with others, with men and with women. It opens us to gregariousness. And we human beings, the human species, have the possibility of rational thinking, of logical thinking. And because first we were able to cooperate and to take care of others. From that on, and thanks to loving bonds that we have with others, we developed on what we are now. When we see that, we realize that the idea of power, control, domination is something that has deceived us, and that made it impossible for us to connect with our inner self. So the patriarchal systems made us disconnect first from ourselves and to disconnect from what we think, from what we are, and we invented ourselves and created as persons of domination, because they made us think that we are responsible of providing, but not in the way that we really have to provide and to care. Our love was removed, our way of loving others made us change. And this, what the patriarchal system made with us, was to make us develop narratives that don't have love in themselves and to reproduce that model. So I invite you to think about spirituality and to experience spirituality. I don't criticize those who believe or who are non-believers, who believe in different religions. I invite you all to this conversation about spirituality. I invite you all, believers and non-believers. I invite you to recover the dialogue of what we have in common, and to those who feel blessed for being in this life, in this world. I would like to share and to learn what you all think about this. We have to feel blessed for being alive, for being in this world, and from there to connect with others. I could say a lot more about this, but this is what today here in Mexico, unless here it's the morning, probably the afternoon somewhere else. This is what I wanted to share. Let's recover spirituality. It doesn't matter if you are a believer or not. It doesn't matter if you believe in one religion or the other. I found myself speaking about this with different people, with people who believe in different religions. And I talked to different people that no matter what religion you believe in, the practices, rituals that you do about life, about anything. I mean, of course, we all need symbols, rituals, but no matter what is your religion, please work on your spirituality. Offer those who are looking for something, who are frustrated, who are angry, who feel hatred, who only experience domain, distraction, invite them to connect with their spirituality. It is not a spirituality that isolates you from the world. On the contrary, and this is not something personal. This spirituality looks to fill us as human beings, to provide us more opportunities. And I think it's very difficult to achieve the transformation that we need. Of course, men have to say no to violence, but they have to say no also to the patriarchal system.
We're now seeing men who help around the house, who are less violent, who have more solidarity. But if you don't work on institutional violence, if you do not denounce this patriarchal system, then you're not working towards a more equal society. So it's a big message, a message with a lot of hope. I truly think that that you heard me out today, that you heard my reflection, my message. And so I will no longer be speaking today. Now we're going to divide into breakout rooms once again and talk about two questions. The first one, how did my spirituality grow or change through this talk today? And second question, what is your takeaway of something useful in order to work to deconstruct patriarchy? So what changed or enriched my idea of spirituality through this lecture, through this conversation today? And second, what is your takeaway from this talk that is useful in order to work towards eliminating this patriarchal system? So if it's okay with you, we're going to take a few minutes to divide into breakout rooms so that we can reflect on these two questions, and then we'll be right back. So Bianca, Jenny, I don't know if you can take us away to the breakout rooms for just a few minutes in order to discuss these two
Sure.
questions.
Carlín, ¿quieres participar?
Sorry, I didn't understand. Carlene, do you wish to participate?
Oui, je vais participer.
In French.
Je voulais réagir aux deux questions. Je voulais émettre mes points de vue.
Hola. Bueno, creo que estoy.
Oui, vous ne me saisissez pas. Je peux parler.
Carlín, ¿quieres decir algo?
Ah, d'accord. Alors, par rapport à
Carlene, do you wish to say something?
ce qui a changé à moi, c'est vraiment la prise de conscience. C'est la prise de conscience du fait qu'au niveau de la spiritualité, il faudrait vraiment que nous puissions aussi prendre en compte la dimension, prenons par exemple, comment les leaders religieux
Yes, intimacy and
au niveau des confessions.
intimation. So how some religious ideas could trigger some confessions. For example, my ideas shifted and changed a lot for me. These interventions were crucial. We need to be aware of the different religions and confessions, people that need spiritual guidance beyond the theology, the theory, the idea of theology. We need a good dosage of positive masculinity and how religious ideas could reinforce capabilities, and not just speaking about the word of God or spirituality. I think that there's also a cultural aspect that needs to be improved. That's what I believe about the first question. And regards the second question, I believe that the effects of patriarchy, positive patriarchy, are necessary. I am president of the men's network for gender equality in the Republic of Congo, and we work with teenagers, but we also work with adult men. And so when we work with certain people, when we talk about religion and spirituality, I believe that actions need to be oriented towards religious leaders, so that they don't speak so much of the comparison between men and women, but that they can teach through humanity, from one human to another, and talk about the feminine gender. And we see in this way that teenagers are going to start growing and developing with this idea, with empathy, and growing with this transformative idea. This is a transformational process of patriarchy. So when working with the youth and men, we need to insist on this positive masculinity so that they can grow and develop with this concept, so that we can teach them to critically reflect on their attitudes. And those passages that are described in the Bible and the religious idea and ideas stated there, and speak to religious leaders and talk about community leadership, so that we can change this negative masculinity, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the authorities have a patriarchal view. And I think that this transformation can help religions to trigger a change.
Te propongo que escuchemos a otras personas también, Carlín. Muchísimas gracias. Perdón.
Carlene, maybe we can listen to other people. I'm sorry that I interrupt, but we do need to listen to some other reflections. So I'm going to invite anybody else to invite you to share with us your reflection from the breakout rooms. Could we maybe listen to anyone else? Thank you. Who else would like to speak? Yes, I'd like to participate. My name is Eduardo. Okay. I'm Eduardo Sanchez from Mexico City. So we were in our breakout room, we reached a similar conclusion to both questions regards spirituality and how to work on it. And we arrived to the conclusion that it would be useful to remove gender from topics related to spirituality. Even sometimes speaking legally, we need to stop talking about men and women, and we need to start talking about people, persons.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Ça, c'est déjà un...
Perdón, Carlín, dejemos que hable Eduardo.
I'm sorry, Carlín. Carlín, we're hearing your voice on the floor. Yes, so that's just what I wanted to share. That spirituality should be gender neutral because it's related to people and not to men or women. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for your reflection. Would anybody else like to share, taking advantage of the few minutes that we have left? Anyone else? Please don't rush. Don't speak all at once. I beg of you. Maybe we could have a woman intervene because we shared some interesting reflections in our group. I worked with Stella and another colleague. So I don't know if maybe a woman would like to share her reflection.
Sita
yes,
is going to
sure.
Sita.
Sure. Yes, go ahead, please. Stella, was it you that asked for the floor?
No, it is Sita. Sita was going to represent us.
Adelante, Sita, por favor.
Yes, Sita, please, go ahead. You have the floor if you wish to speak. Sita, are you listening to us? We don't have a lot of time left. So, Sita, can you go? Yes, Sita, go ahead.
Adelante, Sita.
Sita, can you hear me? You are on mute. You're silenced.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for unmuting me. I was muted, actually. Thank you, Stella. I think a lot of the points resonate with what our friends said, that it should be gender neutral. But one main point I had made, which Stella wanted me to share, was related to spirituality. I don't think it needs to only unpack patriarchy, but we should also look at and reflect on what feminist groups and women's groups want. We always feel as women that only if patriarchy is handled, we will get gender equality. That's not true. A lot of the gains we have got in feminism comes down when we don't use spirituality there. And women tend to start behaving like what we claim patriarchs shouldn't do. And when we start misusing the laws and the rights given to us, then we fail in the equality which we are trying to fight for. So I think we need to look at both areas. So if we look at positive masculinism, we should also look at positive feminism. It cannot be that only if men start improving and patriarchy gets deconstructed, women start getting equal rights. That's not true, because women within themselves, if they start misusing the rights we are getting, then we are harming other women as well, and men. And therefore, I agree with my dear friend who spoke about gender neutral interventions, gender neutral laws. And I think the main issue here should be to concentrate on the victims. And gender doesn't matter, and it need not be binary. It can also be other genders. And a lot of the issues when we talk about masculinity and feminism, we tend to neglect other genders as well. So this was the point I was making. Thank you so much.
Muy bien, gracias, Cita. Y sin duda.
Yes, Sita, thank you so much. Without a doubt, what you're saying is very interesting. Women cannot just reflect on patriarchy without listening and reflecting and using the feminist framework. We need to listen to feminist groups and feminism. So Sita, thank you so much for bringing that reflection to the table. Thank you. Rubén, you have the floor.
Buenos días, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están?
Hi, good morning. Thank you.
Gusto escucharte.
It's a pleasure to hear you.
Lamento haber entrado.
Okay, so I'm sorry that I logged in a few minutes late.
Quería también plantear algo que
So I wanted to
un poco desde mi punto de vista preocupante como
I wanted to talk about a worrying issue.
tiene el patriarcado
There's something in patriarchy
no ha solucionado en cierto modo
that something patriarchy has not
y es la inclusión de
dealt with or solved with good feminism. The inclusion of everyone, of every human species on the planet.
también lo pueda entender, pero no hay aquí, por ejemplo, hombres con discapacidad.
For example, we are not addressing the issue of men or women with certain disabilities, for example. For example, people with disabilities truly suffer this patriarchy, this system that has harmed society so much.
No veo aquí invitados a personas sordas.
I don't see the deaf community or the hearing impaired. We're not reflecting on these minorities. And I know many.
Hecho de accesibilizador, les he hecho llegar información como esta, pero no hay un plan.
There is no real plan to include these groups. It's just us speaking in this space, and we can see each other, we can hear each other, but we are not including these other minorities that also need to deconstruct. And I also feel that women with disabilities need to be included in feminism. I've been in feminist spaces, and women are saying that feminism is growing, but women with disabilities are being left behind. We are holding movements and organizations and strikes, but still these minorities need to still be represented. We have a lot of work to do in that area, especially from a spiritual aspect. So I call on you to reflect on a plan so that we can include these groups. Thank you, Rubén. Without a doubt, spirituality in this aspect is very important. It's a spirituality that is not quite open yet, and spirituality needs to empower every human citizen. Thank you so much, Ruben. Would anybody else like to participate or speak before closing? What we've shared is very interesting. This topic does not end here. It doesn't close here. I believe that the construction of symbolism and narrative, the thing that we need to build for this world, this connected world, so that we can think of how we can talk about the world and how we shape the world that we want to live in, this spirituality that makes us assume commitments to be respectful to address patriarchy. I don't know if anybody would like to make any other comments, and if not, then I guess we could do a closing. You can do a closing, so that you leave today with what we have talked about, and you can still reflect on that and think of how we can continue shaping. So Bianca, Jenny, I'm very thankful for this space, and I'm very happy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share such crucial aspects. Thank you so much for listening.
Maybe just to share a bit more about your book, if anybody else wants to explore these topics more deeply, no? Which
Y bueno, pues el libro,
found on Amazon.
sí, el libro está en español, pero
Yes, the book I wrote is in Spanish. You can buy it through version through different platforms, electronic platforms, Amazon, ebook, and I think there are different options and for different devices. It's in Spanish, and this is the name: Spiritual Intelligence Without Spirits or Gods.
Thank you so much, and what a rich session. No, it was really great to hear everyone's analysis, no, on this intersection or rejection, shall we say, of spiritual principles and patriarchy, no? Thank you very much to everyone for sharing and for your contributions. And of course, a big thanks to Rafael. It was a really rich session.